So, are you ready?
Hello, my name's Sylvester McCoy. I played Doctor Who. Number 7. Yes, a long time ago. Anyway, you're listening to Neil. No, you're not. Listen to me. Anyway, you might be soon listening to Neil podding. Whatever that is.
Neil Before Blog presents Neil Before Pod.
Hello, and welcome to another action-packed edition of Neil Before Pod, the podcast that makes everyone say, I've never heard of that. I'm your host Craig McKenzie, and we're off on another trip into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's a place we like to visit, and Netflix recently gave us a reason to by releasing 8 episodes of superhero glory in the form of The Defenders, the end result of individual Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage and Iron Fist Netflix shows. So I stumbled around to see who I could find, and Chris was available to help here. Hi Chris.
Hello.
And I travelled through the multiverse, the podcasting multiverse, to find James Lundy, who joins us for the first time. Hi, James.
Hello.
Welcome to our Earth.
Aye, well, it's a wee bit strange here, you know, the weather, you know.
Eagle-eyed listeners will know that I guest starred on James's podcast back in, I think it was October or November, when it was the DC TV crossover from last season, so this is finally completing that crossover. So James, since you're guesting for the first time, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself? What do you do, and where can we find you other than here?
Well, I'm basically involved in the comic industry, you know, do a bit of everything, from self-publishing to running Edinburgh Comic Con to selling comics. I'd say probably the main substance of all the work that I do throughout the year would be Edinburgh Comic Con. You know, it takes up all the time and all the work, and it's a labour of love as well. But you know, I don't do it for nothing. And the rest of the sort of self-publishing side of things, really, that is the labour of love type thing where you do it to scratch an itch. And the selling comic stuff is, you know, I don't know, I just do that for the fun as well, because I've been collecting comics since I was about 8-year-old now, so from 8-year-old to about 42, you can do the maths yourself and figure out how long that's been. I know it's longer than what I'd care to mention, to be perfectly honest with you.
That's it. Comic books, the consumer lives.
Aye, they certainly have consumed mine to a great extent. Mind you, that's not been a continuous reading. I did, like a lot of people, have my breaks for it. You know, you get to about 17, 18 when I left home to go away and study. I stopped reading comics for a while because obviously I was skint. But I got back in it. I always found myself back in the comic shops. Always find yourself, but it doesn't matter, you have a wee stop of reading comics, you always find yourself back in the comic shops. And then I suppose it was inevitable that I worked in it, because it's all I ever wanted to do. I was working, I suppose since I was about 8-year-old and I used to draw the time and that, I wanted to make, I was really good, like really, even though if I can be so boastful to say it, I mean, apparently I was really good at that, but I let that slip to a greater extent. So, you know, but you always find your way back to comic books. So I think it was inevitable that I really wanted to, you know, work in comics, as it were, in some form or another. Aye.
Yeah. And James has a self-published title called Wired, which I'll put a link to. I assume there's a link to where people can buy it that I can put in the show notes.
Of course there is, aye, emancipationstudios.com. Aye.
Cool. I will make sure that's in the show notes, as well as James's podcast, Hero Talk Rebirth. I presume there was a Hero Talk pre-Rebirth.
There was there's a normal Hero Talk show, and we recorded it for a good few years, and due to various things our lineup we changed a little bit just because people's work commitments outside of it, and also I think we just wanted to do something a little bit fresher and, you know, start again. And like iTunes being iTunes for some reason or other, because we'd left it a while, they had killed the link. So when we went back on Hero Talk Rebirth, and it was right at the time, when DC's doing, the DC Rebirth stuff, so we thought we would be topical and cool and fresh and doing with the kids, and call it Hero Talk Rebirth.
And then as soon as the next reboot kicks in, that will be meaningless.
I know, it'll probably be like, get another couple of months and it'll be like a Hero Talk Legacy or something to tie in with Marvel or that.
So, yeah, you can check that out. It can be found anywhere. Again, I'll put a link in the show notes. So I like to do collective pimping when people are on, as anyone will know. But we're here for a specific purpose, to talk about the recent Netflix team-up series, The Defenders. Mm-hmm. So that's a thing that happened recently. I can't be bothered writing about it, so here I am talking about it. So we'll start off with it's a 4-year plan, something like that. Maybe not as long as that, but it's an extended plan by Marvel again to set things up and then bring it all together. So naturally, there was other shows before. There was 4 characters across 5 shows before this thing. So what were your thoughts on the other Netflix Marvel shows and characters?
I loved them. The shows, the characters. You started with, was it? You've had Daredevil, you've had Jessica Jones, you've had Luke Cage, you've had Iron Fist, and then all the Defenders. And obviously, some are stronger than others, but I've loved all the shows. Of the mood, the tone, everything that's been done with it. It's having it on Netflix is probably a nice home to have it, because you can release all the episodes at once and you can watch it at your own pace, which I think for most people they try and just fire through it as quickly as possible. Right enough. Yeah. And then you can do it again and then again. But out of them all, see, a lot of people, if you ask a lot of people, they tend to say that they find Daredevil is their favourite, but for me, I've probably enjoyed Luke Cage the most, apart from one specific aspect of the story. But I liked the tone of Luke Cage. I liked his approach. I loved some things like the specific. Probably my favourite scene of the whole thing is when he walks into the store and he meets Method Man. And he's like, it's you. And he's like, no man, it's you. So he was more impressed with me, Method Man. There's like Method Man was meeting Luke Cage. So that was up to me. And then you get the end bit when they're on the video and he does that sort of wee rap about Luke Cage. I just kind of set off for me. It was good because I love soul music and I love proper hip hop. I don't like a lot of some of the stuff these days because it's crap. But that's just. But that's probably Luke Cage is probably my favourite show out of them all. Probably the weakest might have been Iron Fist. I didn't dislike it to the extent that a lot of people were kind of, being down on it. Because I'm old enough to remember the fact that there was nothing like this when I was younger. So youngsters these days didn't really care how good they've got it. I remember standing. I've found myself standing in line at conventions, and there's been some folk younger than me, and they're moaning, about some things within some shows and some films, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Says Ken, you at least you've got to watch it, you lucky little so and so. Fair enough, didn't get me wrong. There has been some atrocities out there in terms of the films. Like you've got like your Ghost Rider movies, but the second Ghost Rider movie was utter crap. The first one was watchable. And then you've got like the.
I don't mind the Ghost Rider movies.
Oh my
Even
god!
The second one.
Oh, I couldn't watch the second one. And he had like the spirit. They made an absolute pig's ear Eisner as the spirit. I couldn't watch that. But that's just from my personal point of view. Regarding like the Netflix shows, the casting wise, I'd probably say, what do you call the actress? Jessica Jones. That was good.
Kristen Ritter.
Yes, I thought she was great. I liked the attitude, the sort of, the wee swagger she's got. Luke Cage, yes, spot on. Daredevil, spot on. Iron Fist, it was sort of right to go. I think probably wasn't the best and wasn't the worst for it, you know. But then again, it is what it is at the moment, so I'll just roll with it. I'll probably say Iron Fist's casting, I was just a bit surprised. But I wasn't even surprised, it didn't impress me just as much as what the other ones did.
Well, Iron Fist was a complete unknown, pretty much. I'd never heard of the guy before, so I heard that he only had 2 weeks to prepare, though, but which is, you know, not a lot of time, so that kind of accounts for some of the ropiness, I think, but the writing is also to blame as well. But yeah, you're a big fan of the Netflix experiment, it seems, so cool.
Big time.
I'm a fan. I have watched them, and there's a lot of elements that I enjoy. I will say that I've found some of them a bit of a slog. It's not so much I've not enjoyed them, it's that I've found that around about the middle there's a lot of bloat that could be taken out of some of them. I really enjoyed the first series of Daredevil. I thought that was great, despite the fact that it did have its flaws and stuff, but I really enjoyed it. The second season, not so much. I was a little bit disappointed. Jessica Jones, again, I sort of enjoyed about half of that. Same with Cage, but found Iron Fist a massive slog to get through. And it seemed the only reason that I kept going with it was because I knew it was going to be pretty heavily tied into the Defenders, which is what I wanted to see. So, yeah, I found it a bit of battle to get through that. But overall, I've enjoyed the shows. There's some great characters in there, and seeing them all interact is what I was looking forward to.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same as you do. I found them, on the whole, I've actually probably not enjoyed more than I've actually enjoyed. I mean, I really enjoyed Daredevil Season 1. I think that's, you know, a masterpiece. Well, not quite a masterpiece, but it's very, very good. You know, and it's pretty well plotted. The characters are good. The villain is outstanding. I mean, Wilson Fisk, probably the best Marvel villain that they've had on screen so far. Jessica Jones I quite liked, although I got a bit tired of the shtick throughout. I mean, I thought she was really good, and I could see what they were going for, and David Tennant was good, but I think it was a bit too long. Luke Cage I struggled with. It was probably the weakest for me, and I just think the lack of central villain kind of thing. I mean, there was two main villains, and one was more cartoonish than the other. But it kind of struggled with that. Iron Fist I thought was okay. I didn't think it was as bad as everyone made it out to be. It was okay. I think they ruined the potential that Iron Fist has as a mystical warrior type guy. You know, he talks about fighting a dragon, but you don't see him fight a dragon for budget reasons. And it takes till episode 11 or so until you find out who the villain really is. And there's too much shifting between, you know, seeming complex and then just cartoonish mustache twirling villains. So on the whole, I think Daredevil, and then goes downhill from there. Daredevil Season 2 didn't really do it for me. I enjoyed The Punisher, but beyond that it just meandered so much. But the endless armies of ninjas are kind of the problem with that and Iron Fist, I suppose.
There are a lot of ninjas, but at least we know where they've all been getting trained. You know, that's the advantage of Iron Fist. If there's one thing we've learned from Iron Fist, is where the ninjas get trained.
It's good to know.
You know, where the New York stockpile of ninjas come from.
Ninjas everywhere.
You wouldn't be able to take a flight over to New York, would you? Don't be full of the disposable ninjas.
They're like 3 for $2 at Walmart or something like that. Just crazy.
There was a couple of things actually, you know, with the characters you were talking about, the villains in Luke Cage, and you know, they changed things up quite a bit. I mean, for example, what I said, there's one thing that annoyed me about Luke Cage was the fact when they made what do you call it, Luke Cage and what's his chops brothers, and I'm kind of like, hang on a minute, that's not right. They're supposed to just kind of be pals, and they changed some of the things with the villains as well, because Cotton Mouth's meant to have like razor sharp teeth, and sort of like, I'm pretty sure it was just strength. Like he was supposed to be really strong, like a lot stronger. So he was just like a sort of kind of bad crook hood. So it was good the fact that they didn't make him similar in the comic book, because you think about it, if they're telling the story of if they want to show it to feel like ground level, and they want to tell it over so many episodes, you know, to have them all just appearing like super powered or some sort of enhanced ability or something like that too soon, then it might have felt a bit forced, even if that's the best way to describe it. Like if you watch something like Arrow, or you watch something like Flash, and you have like somebody new with superpowers every single week, then at least you've got the way to explain it because of the big explosion thing.
Yeah.
So that's a wee bit easier. But to do that with Luke Cage, it might have felt a wee bit sort of, a wee bit daft, because we're still very much at the start. I know we've had quite a lot of the films on the big screen, and we're in a few episodes of like the Netflix stuff, and then we've got like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which will be coming up for its 4th season next season. So there's been a lot of telling, but to have all these people with enhanced abilities or superpowers just suddenly appear within the sort of the Netflix part of the universe, it might have been a bit too much too soon. So maybe to play them down a wee bit might have been the best idea.
Another issue is if you'd adapted Luke Cage as it stood in the comics, especially from the start, then it would be very, very offensive, but to a modern audience, because it was essentially blaxploitation type comics when it first started, wasn't it?
Well, at least they call him Black Luke Cage. No, he was called Power Man. He wasn't called Black Power Man. So I mean, at that time there was a lot of the heroes. Like you had Goliath. So there was like the guy who could obviously grow like Goliath, but they called him Black Goliath. He had Black Panther,
yeah.
and DC's Black Lightning, and all this. And I'm like, mate, I'm no blind. Pardon my language. Can I swear on this podcast? I think he's nasty. But it's like, I'm not blind. You know what I mean? I can use my own 2 eyes. I ken the colour of his skin. You didn't have to put that in front of it to call his title. You know what I mean? I mean, like Black Panther. Oh, is there another character within the Marvel Cinematic Universe called Panther? Is there? Is there a White Panther? No. I didn't think so. So that to the time was that was a wee bit kind of strange at the time. But looking back, I suppose so. See, there's a lot of things with the sort of like blaxploitation of I suppose I never ever really read it as such. In terms of the characters, certainly the costume that he wore in the comic books, and that you really are happy that they kicked it into touch. I mean, they've kicked it into touch anyway in the comic book. But on screen it would just look stupid. Yeah.
Well, they have his costume in an episode in Luke Cage, don't they? Or as close to it, they've got the tiara and everything.
Well, they've got it's more like a sort of nod to it, than a costume. It's like he's breaking out, so it's he's got that thing in his head and he's just not that. What I do like is the sort of the character, the like Sweet Christmas and all that sort of stuff. The characterisation. That's cool. Yeah.
I do think they've done well in making the shows sort of stand out from each other, either via the music, and the use of music in them, and the way they've managed to sort of find the characters pretty well as well. Despite the fact they're all meant to be in this very, very tight community together. I know it's New York, in a city of millions, but they're all in a very dense, area of the city. So it's great they managed to sort of split everything up and make it seem nice and different. So I think they've done well with that.
Yeah, and it's certainly it's probably the more unique visually speaking type thing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because the films, for as much as I love them, they all kind of look the same. They have a kind of house visual style, and very few of them kind of drift from that. But the the TV shows, they seem to just they become their own thing. You know, they have their own style, and you can tell it's them, which is good. I think, and it's interesting how they try to combine that as well. So then that brings us naturally on to before we hit the spoiler territory. What are your thoughts on The Defenders as a show?
I enjoyed it. 8 episodes long, so the pacing was fairly. It wasn't overcomplicated, you know. It wasn't like this sort of. It wasn't like watching some sort of something. It wasn't a production of cinematic genius. You know, it was a simple story. Almost hit the ground running. Tied in a few things, and there was a few things that, if you watch it nods back to things like the rooftop garden, and you know where what do you call Sigourney Weaver and that, and is talking to
Madame Gao,
and you know that harks back. In fact, actually, that garden's been in.
It was in Spider-Man. Yeah.
Spider-Man. Spider-Man 2. So that was quite cool to see that getting used again. But I mean, some of that stuff, the story with bringing Elektra back, that's fine. Because I'm wondering actually. See, I'm wondering because now. In the comics and actually in the Ben Affleck movie, which was quite real, he had Bullseye, you know, killing Elektra, which
Spoilers.
has been right. Oh God! The comics only been about for like how long?
Spoilers for a 30-year-old comic.
Aye, you know,
or a 20-year-old movie.
Well, there you go. Aye, which incidentally, director Scott I loved, by the way. So I mean, it was a different take with the Netflix stuff, but to see her, you know, coming back and the take they done with that, you know, her eventual role within the series, I dug that. It was lovely to see Tuck show his face, you know, because that's him being in loads of the Netflix shows, by the way. Incidentally, you know, can I just say, we just announced him as our first guest for Edinburgh Comic Con for next year.
Oh, shameless advertising alert.
Well, there you go.
Sound the clack.
Aye, that's it. Aye. It wasn't even graceful, was it? I'll just shove that right in there. No, but it's cool because Tuck was one cool character because he was a completely useless villain, and the way they've portrayed him in he's had associations to loads of people, to Kingpin and, you know, to other people in the comic books, and he has, you know, he's been right now in the comic book. This is something I always wondered, and I'm going to ask him, try and get an answer to him when I see him next year, unless we see something beforehand. But you remember when Daredevil was getting his suit made?
Yes.
Right, well, there was a cameo or an Easter egg just in the corner. There was a Stiltman suit. Well, there was a Stiltman. There was the legs for the Stiltman armour. That's what it was. You could see it plain as day on screen, and I'm like, all right, Stiltman armour. Now, Tuck wasn't the first person to wear the Stiltman suit in the comics, but he did wear it. He was useless, by the way, but he did wear it. And
just like any other Stiltman, really.
Aye. I'm perfect. I think the recent Stilt, actually, the new Stiltman's actually a woman, I think, and she's got like these telescopic arms now as well. But I don't think I've read much with her in it. And also used the Mauler suit, which he's seen in Luke Cage. You know, the suit that Diamondback, aye. I was trying to think of his thing about his other name. My brain's went absolutely completely mental. It's, trust me, last weekend I done a lot of drinking, and I'm not really a drinker, so I think I've probably killed a few brain cells. It's the best way. It's the best way to do business, by the way, because you get rid of all that pretentious crap, and you just throw it right out the window, and you get to, you know, it's like, we want you to do this, want to do that, and you actually, if you sit and talk over somebody of a few pints and some tequila shots and a few more tequila shots and that, you know, you get to know them as a person. So
the problem is you forget them as a person afterward when you wake up the next day.
I don't think I must have forgot a few things over the weekend. But so the Mauler suit, you know, that you see on putting on when he's fighting Luke Cage at the end.
Yeah.
When Max fighting him, well, like Tuck got his hands on that as well. So he's tied in to a lot of different things. So it's lovely to see him show his face, and I believe he's going to be in the upcoming Punisher as well, because it's been announced online. You know, you can for 1 minute it was all over. So that's no really a spoiler, because it's been announced like all over the place. So, and I think if I'm saying to a lot of people, they'll be, oh right, okay. It's not like I'm saying to you, I don't know, in the Punisher that. Well, actually, funnily enough, I've got on very good authority that the Punisher's got to be brilliant. Because I'm going to drop a name here, by the way, so you can get your clang ready. I was, you know, well, Craig, you contributed, didn't you? When I says to everybody on Facebook, I says, what was everybody's opinions of the Marvel Netflix shows?
I did, yes.
Right, so, and well, one of those people, and I'm not going to say who's who, but one of the people was Jonathan Ross. And he's like, nah, no really, because, I mean, Jonathan Ross, apart from his TV stuff, is a massive comic book fan. You know, he used to own a comic book shop with Paul Gambaccini back in the day, and he's been reading comics, and, you know, and he's been at loads, he goes to loads of cons, and I think he done his thing for the radio show at San Diego this year. He's gonna, he says, I didn't really enjoy it that much, but he's got it on good authority that the Punisher show's got to be absolutely amazing. And there's a few cool things, but there's one specific really cool thing apparently I have to look forward to, and I'm like, right, brilliant. But he wouldn't tell me what it was because he was sworn to privacy, and I'm kind of like, cheers mate. You know,
at Edinburgh Film Festival this year, I spoke to a girl who was on hair and makeup on the Punisher, and she says she seems to think it's going to be good, but I think that's because she enjoyed sitting doing John Bernthal's hair and makeup, which, you know, apparently he's a very charming man.
I would enjoy doing his hair and makeup. You know, if she was sick and I could have phoned, I'll do your hair and makeup. No bother, big man. Do you realise the Punisher's got a skinhead?
Well, this version of the Punisher does, yeah.
Aye, he's got a skinhead and big rosy cheeks. And lipstick.
Oh God, that's terrifying.
Yeah, put the heebie-jeebies right up any criminal. You could just see organised crime falling apart, you know.
Yeah,
not because they're scared. They're probably too busy dying, killing over laughing, you know. They're laughing. The legs have gone. The legs have gone. Oh, it's like you start to laugh that much you can't stand up, and that bit of snot comes out your nose and everything. Oh, yeah. Think to yourself, who is this guy? Oh,
there we go. So you were a fan of Defenders as a show?
I was. Yeah. Yes.
We'll get into spoilers very shortly. So, Chris, what did you think?
The spoiler klaxon.
No spoilers yet.
I thought it was good. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. I still think somehow, despite the fact it's only 8 episodes long, it still felt like it had a little bit of bloat in there. I think Dylan's kind of lost a bit of pace partway through, but overall I enjoyed it. It kind of feels like a nice culmination of all the things we've been watching up until now. So yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I mean, I actually felt like I wanted to watch the next episode rather than with Luke Cage or Iron Fist to an extent that I had to watch the next episode. You know, the distinction was I wanted to see what happened next. I like seeing all the characters interact. That's always fun. The reasons for bringing them together, fair enough. You know, whatever, it worked. The action, pretty cool. and we'll come up to that more later. But it worked. It works. The cast are a good ensemble, and I kind of wanted to see more. 8 episodes is perfect for these Netflix shows. I think 13 is too many because you just get so much meandering until they have to get back to the point. So I think in the future, I know they won't do that, but they should do 8 episode seasons because it would be much tighter, much more rewarding that way. And they could spend more money per episode, so that'd be a good one.
You think with Netflix it wouldn't be as much of an issue. I understand with Network TV it's because they're looking to sell advertising spots for a certain amount of time, or they're looking to fill a gap in their schedule that is 13 episodes big or 13 weeks big.
Yeah.
But with Netflix, not really got that. They can do 5 episodes, they can do 6, they can do 8, they can do what they want, you know?
Was Stranger Things, that was only 6, wasn't it? Or was it 8?
I can't remember off the top of my head now, but they have done some been a lot shorter. They've done some where they're a lot longer as well. They're longer than you would get Network TV. You know,
yeah.
Without, because normally they would go a hiatus in the middle for sort of 3 months before it all comes back.
Yeah. So there we go. Unless anyone has anything further to add before spoiling, we could just ring the spoiler cannon, or whatever I'm going to use noise-wise.
Ring the cannon? How do you ring the cannon?
I'm going to find out.
Okay. I look forward to hearing the ringing of the cannon.
Bring the boom!
So, you ready for spoilers, James, or anything else to add?
I've seen the show. Oh, you mean spoilers for people listening? Sorry, mate.
Yes.
Yes.
I like to have a spoiler-free section, then a spoiler section, just in case people are like, well, you spoiled the whole thing.
That's actually...
And that's what they sound like.
It's not true what they say about you. You consider it.
It's not true what they say. I won't ask what they say about me. I don't want to know. I assume it's all positive.
Yes, it is. Mostly.
Okay. Spoilers, then. Okay.
Yes.
Yay, we can talk about what we want now. So, I guess we should start with the opening episodes. I thought the first episode was really good, and it almost felt like, you've got like a prologue to a team-up series where it kind of catches you up on where all the characters are at that point, and kind of shows how they fit in. And I thought the first episode is essentially that. It just keeps cutting back and forth between the main characters and their supporting characters, and it really works. I love how the style changes throughout. You get it goes from like Jessica Jones quite bland colour scheme to Luke Cage in the next scene, which is extremely vibrant and colourful, and the music as well. So I loved how they did that. I thought that was really interesting stylistic choice, and then you see these kind of styles merge together as the show goes on. It's really cool.
In full agreement with you.
I enjoyed the opening couple of episodes. I thought it was pretty good. Like you say, you get the quick catch up in episode 1 where you're sort of spinning around each characters. I do think they could have got to them teaming up slightly sooner. I did sort of danced about a lot of the side characters, for want of a better word, that you didn't really need to catch up with, and spend quite a bit of time with them, where I feel that's where some of bloat came from in the beginning, because they know that a lot of people are watching, get to the bit where they all meet up and get on with it, kind of thing. So I did feel there was a little bit extra in there, but I thought, like you said, first episodes, to get a catch up and try and summarise everything, it was good. And it seems tonally that they've changed some of the characters, they've sort of upbeated them a little bit, and they've sort of ironed out some of the creases from the programme, so I thought that was good.
And Iron Fist has had a haircut, a much needed haircut.
Shot back and sides it there. Must have been the same lassie that was doing the makeup for the Punisher.
Could have been. It might have been.
Might be.
Can't remember her name, but yeah. That was a strange conversation. Never mind. Also, yeah, I guess the first crossover was Elektra fighting Iron Fist. Although it wasn't insanely clear that it was her at that point, I suppose. But then you had Foggy as Luke Cage's lawyer, which was, again, a nice touch. It's, you might as well, especially since Hogarth's law firm are interested in all these kind of events, so they'll try and keep close to them, which is, it was really cool just to, see Foggy also had a haircut.
That's right,
He's looking all sharp now that he's a high-flying, high-earning lawyer. And the first well, it was a fight, wasn't it? It was Iron Fist versus Luke Cage, which I thought was pretty cool.
Oh, when he smacks him for the first time and you see it, because he's having he's no really doing very good up until that point, obviously, because Luke Cage. The weird thing is about the TV show, like I said, they pull a lot of things back because Power Man in the comics is a lot more powerful than what he is in the TV show. You know, he's a lot. I think a lot of the characters have got slightly different, power sets, but it's nice because even he's trying to fight Luke, and he's not doing that great, obviously, because of Luke's sort of invincible to the greater extent, and then eventually he uses his the chi and gives him a very good hook and knocks him across the screen. So that wasn't a bad wee fight, and definitely you could see that his skill at choreographed fighting is got a bit better. He's a bit more fluent. He's a bit more relaxed, a bit more comfortable doing it this time round.
Yeah, he's definitely more in tune with his character, I think. Whereas in Iron Fist, the show, I think he struggled a bit. So maybe in season 2 you'll get a more rounded bit. But Iron Fist, certainly what I've read of him, he seems much more powerful in the comics than he is here. He uses the Iron Fist now and again in the comics, for instance, whereas in the show he really doesn't. And visual effects wise, how expensive is it going to be? You keep lighting up his hand, every now and again. So it can't be a money saving measure. I think it's...
He's got a very intermittent Iron Fist that just decides it's not going to work.
Performance anxiety, maybe.
Yeah, performance anxiety with the Iron Fist, yeah. It would be really, really useful if you used it right now. Nah, I can't. My cheese all whack. I'm not feeling good today. I've got a headache. It's no good.
Kunlun has a pill for that.
Yeah, well...
Well, I mean, let's face it, Madam, you're when that technically turn round and say to them, you're a bit we've met other Iron Fists before you, and you're just what are you all about?
Just saying what we're all thinking. You're a bit pant. We not get another one, but it's one of those. If I hear him say I'm the immortal Iron Fist one more time, I'm going to smash your face.
There's a supercut on YouTube of every time he name drops himself. It's really fun. Yeah, but weirdly with Madame Gao, I mean, she was in Daredevil season 1. She just seemed like a mob boss, which was fine. But she's become such a big deal over the other shows. Well, certainly in Daredevil season 2 and Iron Fist. I forget she's not in the other ones, but it's weird. She's like a Jedi now.
I was going to save this for later on when we're talking about the villains, but I think she deserves her own spin-off. Seems like a badass. She started the revolt within the Hand years and years ago. Now there's the spin-off that you want.
And I like how they solved the problem of who's going to fight the old lady, and they made Jessica Jones do it because it's like a woman hitting a woman kind of thing, just to stop people from kicking off about that. Because someone had to hit the old lady. It might as well be Jessica Jones.
You see, there's something quite strange about Jessica Jones fighting ninjas, because she's not got impenetrable skin. I mean, she's really strong, and I think, she can jump far, but I think in the comics she can actually fly, if I remember rightly, Faye.
Intermittently, but yeah.
Yeah. So it's like you think to yourself, hang on a minute, but fighting ninjas, the hand-to-hand combat's not really this guy's been trained,
Well, as you know, one ninja is really threatening, but 1,000 ninjas are just henchmen. They're just useless.
One of my favourite lines from the show was her turning round and saying, "Am I the only person around here that doesn't know karate?"
That's right.
I just howl because it was like everyone around is throwing shapes and doing everything, and she's just there having to throw at people.
Yeah,
that's what I thought. If you gave her some body armour, and then she'd be really deadly, because she was just ragdoll folk over left, right, and centre. Okay, ninja, really? Here, have some of this.
Or at least teach her how to fight a little bit.
No.
Yeah. I find it weird that, as soon as Luke Cage mentions that he fought some guy with a glowing hand, Claire was like, "Oh, yeah, I know that guy, I'll introduce you." But all the way during Iron Fist, there are points where it's like, she could have been saying, "I have people that can help you with this stuff, I'll introduce you," instead of this whole, "You can't go off on your own and do this," you know. It's really weird that she picks now to start introducing people rather than earlier, when she would have made more sense.
Ties them all together. I mean, I expect at some point during Iron Fist she would mention Daredevil, because it's the person, you know, she mentions a lot, "Oh, I've a friend, I've dealt with these people before, you see what they did to my friend." At that point, you're like, why don't we turn to the friend who's from before for some advice and information? But that never happens, you know, out of convenience purposes. But yeah, it is one of those. Go, oh, finally, we're gonna draw them all together.
Yeah.
I genuinely cannot remember every single thing that's happened in every show up to this point, but is there not one point where somebody turns around and goes, "Why don't we just get the Avengers?"
Not in these shows. They're weirdly funny about mentioning the Avengers in these shows. Like, Jessica Jones almost acts like they're swear words that they can't refer to. You know, they refer to them as the big green guy or the guy with the shield or whatever.
Right. Because they probably wouldn't know that. They probably aren't called the Avengers, you know, as such. Well, they were called the Avengers, actually, but, you know.
I think it's Ant-Man, when he says the first thing I think we should do is call the Avenger.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Aye.
I think,
it's in that one, yeah. But interesting thing is, because when I was first watching it, I was thinking the earthquake thing, that is surely something the Avengers would be keeping an eye on, because it's a very strange earthquake. But then I remembered, or I had it said to me, that in Spider-Man Homecoming, it's mentioned that Tony Stark has things that he feels are below the Avengers' pay grade. So it is mentioned that the FBI and so on and all other authorities are looking into the earthquake. So maybe Tony Stark thought, this isn't anything to do with us, we'll just leave it. So maybe the building collapse is something that he should be noticing, but other than that, you know, it makes sense that the Avengers might not show up, although it's a bit weird that Tony Stark doesn't notice a ninja cult running around New York.
That's because they're ninjas. You know what I mean? You know?
Spider-Man stumbles across a ninja, you know, having a bathroom break somewhere.
My Mr. Ninja, what big eyes you've got.
Yeah.
That's constipation if you go in near that Imodium, big man.
Could happen. But, you know, other than that, you're always going to get these problems with the connected things. It's like the reason... You know, the reason in the Supergirl TV show that she doesn't call Superman every week is because there'd be no point in having a Supergirl TV show, and it's the same here. You know, if they could get the Avengers all the time, then what's the point in these guys?
I think the issue now is more going to be in the future, when they've got an issue or a threat that's very big, why they don't kill each other. If they're not going to tie in a little bit from there on, that's where it's going to be a little bit tricky. It's either that, or they're going to have to write excuses every other series, going, "Oh, I tried her, but she's obviously drunk," or I called Luke, but he's on vacation. It's going to be a lot of sort of writing around why they can't help each other at that point, because up until now they've been in their own bubbles, really, with a little bit of interconnection, but you know, they've been pretty separate and had their own reasons for being, whereas now there's not really an excuse. Or they're going to have to come up with pretty lame ones in order to not get them to team.
Yeah, and I mean, I could understand that Jessica Jones just doesn't want to be involved in stuff. You know, she's not bothered. So that answers that from that perspective. But yeah, the rest of them, they seem pretty up for it. Iron Fist wants to team up with everybody. You know, he seems to. I actually quite liked his arc about the whole, you know, he's just a kid, as Colleen says, he's just a child looking for his family, and he kind of found one in these other superheroes, and so I can see how he would want to just play with others all the time.
I mean, like Luke Cage and Power Man and Iron Fist, that was a brilliant comic series, and then like they formed Heroes for Hire, and there's the hints because they start to get that sort of buddy thing going on. When they're chatting, they're building up a bit of a rapport and relationship during the Defenders. So you're like, Heroes for Hire, which is absolutely... Oh, and Heroes for Hire, where there was the modern incarnation as well. And this made me... I mean, I know I might be jumping forward a wee bit, but it made me giddy. Now, really, if you would ask me about real life, I probably would never squeal like a little schoolgirl, wee, right? When something, no, if some lassie loses a arm, I probably wouldn't be going, hee, but I thought to myself, yes, Misty Knight. Because, you know, Misty Knight in the comics, she's got the sort of like robotic arm, which she gets in the comic for Stark Industries. Now, there might not be. I can't. I was going to say you might not see Iron Man or Tony Stark or anybody like that, you know, in the Defenders sort of Netflix shows. But then again, you know, he was in Spider-Man. It was across stuff. So, you maybe got a reference. They did say that the people in the hospital were going to help him, and that, you know, Danny Rand of Rand Industries owns that hospital. So they probably have technology used in that hospital from places like Stark Industries. So that'd probably explain.
Stark, or say it's from Stark, and
or it could be
Danny funds it.
Yep.
Or it could be a Rand Industries robot arm as well. Who knows? They were using hammer tech in Luke Cage. Could be that. It could
That's
be.
right.
It doesn't as long as it's a robotic arm, it doesn't really matter where it comes from. I don't think. That's the kind of detail that's not necessary, really.
Product place will be a Dyson. Fund these TV shows somehow.
Yeah. Dyson are now in prosthetic arms. Yeah, could be. She has a vacuum cleaner attachment, which is, you know, kind of sexist, but whatever. And if I remember right from the comics, there was Colleen teamed up with Misty Knight quite a lot. They were Daughters of the Dragon. Is that what they were called? Mm-hmm. Something like that. Yeah.
Well, Colleen, she basically was the main thing about the Daughters of the Dragon.
But she was a sidekick or something. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't read it since. Well, I can't remember when I read it. I've not read it in a long time, but I do remember it was a thing. And Colleen was actually the most interesting thing about Iron Fist up to a point as well, I think.
It's pretty cool, actually. Character. It's pretty cool, actually, that the clay she's got on is really her suit uniform, but it's no push.
Just a white hoodie kind of thing.
Aye, it's done in such a way that it's believable again.
Yeah.
A bit of credibility.
Yeah, so it feels like they might be setting up other Netflix shows, because you could have a Daughters of the Dragon Netflix show, I suppose. No reason why not. Give Colleen something of her own, I suppose. The Madame Gao spin-off, as Chris wants.
Yes, the Madame Gao spin-off. Listen,
the Madame Gao prequel series.
Yeah. All you
now
do,
Netflix,
you
I know
do half the number of episodes of one of the other ones that we don't really care about as much, and give us 8 episodes of the Madame Gao spin-off. Okay, thank you. That is my apple on behalf of the people of Earth.
Yeah. Netflix, I know you're billions in debt, but you know what's another few billion?
That's good debt. It's good debt.
It's good debt. Yeah, apparently, good debt. Yeah. So we touched on the dynamics a little bit. I mean, the team gets together. It's kind of dribs and drabs, although they have the big corridor fight scene that unites them all. But they sort of all get there on their own, so to speak. But the dynamic is like really good. I really like that Jessica Jones spends most of her time insulting Matt Murdock. And Matt's kind of reluctant to join them. Luke and Danny are best buds pretty early on, and also like Luke seems to get along with everybody. Interestingly, he's a bit of a floater in that sense. He's kind of able to talk to anybody.
Well, I mean, you know, Brian Hitch did make him eventually the main in the comics. He did make him the leader of the Avengers for a while, and New Avengers, Might Avengers.
Yeah.
So
New Avengers, I think. Yeah.
So he was the main man there for a while. So he has to be sort of, you know, a people person to a certain extent. You know, has that ability to be like a leader of men. And I use the term men collectively for men and women before some sort of social justice warrior tries to shoot me down. Bang bang. Pachow. But I look Cage. Yeah. He's definitely very quite enigmatic. No, charismatic. That's charismatic.
Yeah.
I like that initial fight, sort of bringing them all together. Them all still drifting towards was it Midland Circle or whatever it was. I liked them all sort of drifting in there on their own and uniting together at that point. Even just for that one fight, that's really cool. And then the follow-up in the Chinese restaurant, seeing them sort of bouncing off each other. Initially all being very reluctant to talk, and then all being very open and taking the mickey out of each other. I like.
Yeah, that corridor fight scene, I loved it when Danny was getting beaten up and then the hip-hop music kicked in to announce Luke's arrival. That was such a cool intro. And he just barges through the door and he's ready to kick ass.
That's right, yeah.
He's awesome. And then Matt Murdock wearing a scarf over his eyes, which was quite funny.
Well, aye. Didn't happen to have his suit at the time. That's all it was.
That was it. That was it. Needed a scarf. And you've got Jessica takes the lift and Daredevil just runs up he has to run up the stairs, which doesn't make any sense really.
Aye, that was right, because you only ever seen Jessica really use some of her powers at the end. You know, when she's in the sort of the what do you call it, the lift sort of chamber shack, when she jumps for the lift up, grabs a cable sort of thing and holds it while she's hanging. You're like that. Hang on a minute. She could have got up inside that building a hell of a lot quicker than that.
Yeah. But that's just how much of a swagger she's got. She just casually walks in, takes the lift. She's not supposed to be there, but whatever. Yeah.
She's like, I'm not important. They'll have to just wait for me. Aye.
And the Chinese restaurant bit was probably my favourite of the whole series. I just I like how that was put together. You know, and it's a nice contrast to the Avengers, where they've got like a high tech building somewhere, you know, that they can all retreat to, but they're just like running at some guy's restaurant, and Danny throws money at them to shut them up, and they just sit and have dinner while they're bickering.
An infinite supply of Chinese coming through the restaurant.
Well, he ordered 4 of everything.
Yeah.
He had to order 4 of everything, because that was part of the deal. I guess it was the end of the night and it was all going to go to waste, so they might as well eat it. And, you know, exploit the billionaire, why not?
Yeah, he's going to have to for remodelling now, though. Expensive, eh?
Yeah, that 6 months rent probably ain't going to cover it.
6 months rent, you know, remodelling, but unfortunately that 4 everything's got to break the bank for him. That's him. He'll be filing bankruptcy now. If only it was just 2 everything, he'd have been alright. Filing bankruptcy like Marvel did back in the 90s. What if, you know, the funniest thing about, because to me, actually, originally the Defenders was always a different group to me, you know, growing up. You know, when you've got the different characters, like your Doctor Strange, Hulk, Silver Surfer type, that sort of thing. But for them to change it and to make it the way it is, initially I was like, oh, how's that going to work? It's worked very well. You know, the way the teams, the way they're using like the current characters. What I would like to see going forward, potentially, if it is possible, is to see maybe Nighthawk sort of show his face at some point, because it was mentioned before when Wilson Fisk and that's organising the sort of bash. He's given an invitation to Richmond. Says, you know what I mean, given an invitation to Richmond, blah blah blah, which is like Kyle Richmond. If Kyle Richmond, you know, becomes like becomes like Nighthawk, and you think to yourself, well, Nighthawk, he's a sort of a character that could fit in. He could fit in, you know, to that particular universe, you know, in some sort of way. Or maybe just even, you know, Richmond as a character, becoming Nighthawk, it'd be cool to see. Just something else, another character to get into the mix to show, for the show going forward. And it just, you know, it gives another nod to a lot of things and makes it, gives it a more fuller richness.
Moon Knight gets brought up now and again, doesn't he? As someone they might want to introduce at some point.
They've been talking about a lot of things with Moon Knight, back and forth, whether they were going to pursue it. They've talked about pursuing quite a lot of things. I mean, I think maybe Blade might be one of the mixed things, you know, because I suppose in that way they could introduce But they've already got a supernatural element per se, because obviously with Danny's powers, into the heart of the dragon type thing, because you see the dragons under the block. Obviously they're dead, but I mean, you still see them. You know what they are. So I mean, there's that sort of like supernatural element, which you see like some of the characters, they've come back to life, and like Madame Gull's power, she's like fighting. She's not really. It's more like a sort of. She reminds me. Her power's more that kind of daft. You see these videos on YouTube, or these people that say, "Oh, they can fight with chi," and they can do whatever, and they knock people over just by, moving their hand past them, sort of thing. Well, it's all very well in fantasy, maybe not real life, but it looks so cool. It looks so cool when you see it on screen in fantasy. You know what I mean? It looked, when you seen her fighting and she's, using that sort of almost like a chi force to push things. I think it was like, did she move out a car at one point?
Yeah, there was a dumpster or something, and
aye,
maybe a car. Yeah.
So that's cool.
Was her sister's car getting towed, so she took it off the tow truck thing.
Yeah, Jessica did that. Yeah.
But you see them all fighting, and so it would fit in. It'd fit in really, I think, well, and it'd probably give us further things like having the sort of the vampire maybe element and the supernatural element, and we know that we've got like Ghost Riders, Ghost Riding other, and sort of the non-Netflix stuff, but it's like the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff, which is still technically the same universe.
Yeah.
So Blade, I think, would fit in for future stuff. Pretty sure he would, big time, very easily.
Yeah. I can see them. I can see many characters that they could introduce. Some of the cheaper, more fisticuffy type guys, rather than the big effects guys. So I don't think we'll get Miles Morales on a Netflix show anytime soon. But someone like Blade who just has a sword, he'd be all right.
Aye. A pair
and a motorbike.
Teeth. Aye.
Yeah.
He goes to the local joke shop and gets a pair of the plastic vampire. Sorted.
Yeah. So yeah, the dynamic between the team was pretty good, and I quite like how they're kind of reluctantly chucked together, and it's kind of they kind of say to each other, "Yeah, this is it. Like, we're just going to do this one thing that we've all stumbled into and get on with our lives." So that tracks, and you even have the infighting. The bit where Danny decides that he's going to fight with Matt to go and do his own thing, which was, I don't know, it seems to be the only thing that Danny wants to do. He just wants to punch something. That's all he ever wants to do. But it doesn't make sense that Matt would be a better fighter than him. That's a bit weird.
Well, Matt was trained by,
Stick.
So he's a cracking, he's a really good fighter. You might find that, once Danny comes a bit more confident in himself, he'll do it. Whether we're going to see some of the other characters for Kunlun, like the Thunder and all that, in future episodes, then that could, it could give up. Maybe the TV show that maybe he's got to like further his training. You never know. There could be other things he's got to.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe he's just got the Iron Fist because he's got the heart, the character. He's got the. He's not as good. I don't know if you remember some like the original manga anime stuff, like with the Fist of the North Star.
No.
Where right, okay. Well, young Ken becomes the Fist of his North Star, but that's not him at the peak of his ability. It's only later on in the movie, when he comes back, he's better. So maybe they're going to take that approach with the show. Maybe he'll go back to Kunlun at some point and further his training. Like
hopefully you'll find that not everyone's dead.
Aye.
Oh, that was but other than that, the dynamic was good. I think they all got along well, and they're a good ensemble. I don't really have much more to say about their dynamic. I mean, I thought there was a good amount of humour. There was everyone's kind of point of view came across and all that stuff. It was just, it was very well put together.
It'll be interesting to see what happens because obviously at the moment Luke's with Night Nurse, but he's aye, and but at that point in the show where he ends up in Topa Jessica and he's like, oh, it's because of big back memories or something, or just like old times, whatever he says to her.
Yeah.
Obviously, because they go on in the books to have like a baby, so are they going to go down that route? Was that hinted at? Was that what it was hinting at? That there's still chemistry between them? Is there still chemistry between them? Are they going to go down that route, or they're not going to bother? Are they going to take it somewhere fresh and new? It's nice that they've done that because it gives you something to think about, but it doesn't make you say that it's going to happen. But it makes you as a viewer think to yourself, are they? It's like when people were watching soap operas, kind of like the woman kind of like that. Oh, they got to get together. Or they know. Oh, you shouldn't be with them. You should be with somebody else. So it sort of brings the element to it, I suppose. Not quite Scott and Charlene. Aye, not quite Scott and Charlene for Neighbours, but I'm sure Mage.
I really enjoyed it. I think seeing them all come together worked. They managed to give everyone a little bit of something to do, a little quirk within the group. So I think it worked.
I'm so glad that they got rid of Stick. That guy's annoyed me since his first appearance.
I've always really liked. I've always really liked Stick, but it gives it a lot of credit. See, when they kill people off, it gives it credibility to an extent. Like Sigourney, did you expect her to go the way she did when she did?
Well, that was dumb. They built her up so much, and then she just kind of gets offed immediately.
But does that strengthen Elektra's character?
Not really, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, with Stick, I kind of feel like that's something that should have happened in Daredevil Season 3 at some point, rather than happening on this, because being such a key character through that, I do think that a lot of people that watch Daredevil will have ended up watching this, so it kind of evens. The same as Elektra, for me, overall, in this. I kind of have the feeling of, did we enter in this particular show that have been another varied combatant, another ninja, a slightly better, less disposable ninja that could have been dispatched by the very end? Or, I don't know. I kind of... This is the thing, because I think Alexandra was built up quite well at the start. As much, he never seems like a proper threat. They went along the same lines as they did with Wilson Fisk in Daredevil Season 1 of showing that she's in a vulnerable position and is trying to fight back and claw back a bit of time to try and get her bit of legacy done so that she can live on, So I kind of felt it was a bit of a shame way that she went out, in the middle of a speech about unity and how she's going to live on, then the knife comes through. Though I don't know, did we see her head getting chopped off or not?
We see Elektra go for her neck, so yeah, I think so.
Alright, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, Elektra could have been anyone for all she was. The only thing they played with her specifically was her connection to Matt, which, eventually gets him, well, maybe not killed, but definitely not killed.
I think we're saying probably not killed.
Yeah.
Well, considering they see him alive, huh?
Yeah. Which is kind of my issues with the tail end of this as well. I was going to mention it later on, but the fact that we him alive at the end kind of spoiled it for me a little. I was like, could you not just left it there and then something happened at the beginning of Daredevil? Rather than, I suppose everyone would know. All right, he's alive, but
also his.
Well, why you'd be kind of suspicious, if you start to watch Daredevil Season 3 and you're going, I wonder if he's still alive. I wonder if he's still.
Well, I actually thought his death didn't work in that sense because it was supposed to be this big emotional thing. But in the back of my head, I was thinking they start shooting Daredevil Season 3 quite soon, so that's not going to happen. It's like when you're watching the first Avengers film and you think that Tony Stark might, or that it appears that Tony Stark might die. because he flies through the wormhole and stuff. And it's like, well, Iron Man 3 is already in production, so he's not going to die. You know, it's like almost that problem. So I think if they were going to attempt to kill off a character, it would have to be someone who's not quite as prominent as, say, Daredevil. You know, it would be maybe...
See you later, Stick.
Yeah, well... I'm glad he's gone. It was also pretty clear that Stick would betray them from the first minute, and he does it like twice, essentially. You know,
he does it all the time.
Yeah, that's all he does.
He comes along, he gives you very little information, betrays you, and does something else.
Although to be fair, his idea was smart. It's like they can't get hold of the Iron Fist if I kill them.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah, and yeah, we really need Iron Fist to punch this wall. You know, it's weird.
Yeah, so what I do, I'll fight her next to the wall with my fist, which is now working. It's not worked any other time, but now that I'm next box, it's not supposed to be open. Let's go for it.
All he had to do was not turn on his Iron Fist, and then it would have been fine.
Yeah, or walk backwards, and she would have to walk forwards, and for he wouldn't hit the wall.
Idiot. Yeah. Yeah, but no, I do agree with you about Elektra. There was, you know, I quite liked some of the stuff they did where it was like, this isn't actually Elektra, this is... You know, this is something inhabiting her body or whatever, and then they reveal that it is actually her, and she's, yeah. Mm-hmm. But then again, there's very little that could be done with it. I think the return of Elektra was more a Daredevil season 3 thing. Maybe having her as a villain throughout Daredevil season 3 would strengthen that. And they may still do that. She may still turn up in season 3. We don't know. But I think she was somewhat wasted, other than, you know, being a competent person to fight against. The rest of the hand were pretty worthless as well. Madame Gao was pretty awesome. Alexandra, she was pretty awesome. But the other 3, not so much.
Well, see, I don't even know this is the other one. I don't know why they brought back the guy from Iron Fist. Is it that Bakuto?
Yeah.
Is that the one? So they brought him back just to kill again. And I was like, if you just started it with them being dead and not there at all, they were worrying about their mortality. They have been worrying about their mortality more if I had died in Iron Fist. You know, rather than having him back there simply to add an extra ninja.
It was to give what's-her-face somebody to fight, you know.
Well, then you don't have lots of running away.
Aye.
You know what I mean? This is where I talk about the blokes. Like, oh, well, we've got to have that guy in, otherwise he's got nothing to do. All right. So don't have her and don't have him. Done.
Although I think giving Colleen something to do is really good. You know, Colleen's good. So.
Yeah, well, I think she's a good character and everything, but when you're trying to sort of spin extra bits around the plot and dropping characters and then not give them much to do simply for the point so that you can lock off head a bit later on, I've already seen them defeated in battle in the first instance. And
who was the other guy? You know, the one that Stick said pulled Nobu's strings. Does that mean we couldn't get the actor who plays Nobu back, so we've got this guy instead?
Is that Murakami? What was it? Murakami? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, and then there was the other guy that was the guy in the white.
Survived. We presume that Gao and the other one have survived.
Yeah.
And you know the other ones are gone, so he's going to pop up somewhere else now. You know.
Yeah, well, the other guy got his head chopped off by Stick, so he's gone.
We know that one's gone.
Sigourney Weaver was offed by Elektra too soon, so that's her. Yeah, and the other guy, Bakuto or whatever his name is, got decapitated by Colleen. So so there's 2 left.
Before taking off Misty's arm. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a couple of fingers left. Which is,
but at one point I was confused because it sounded like they had more originally. So they started with 5, which is a hand, but it sounds like they got rid of a couple. So I'm trying to work out who had sort of 7 fingers in the original bit. It was like, or the name only makes sense once they got rid of the other 2, and then they did a restructuring program. You know, maybe dragons
have 7 fingers.
Ah, well, they could be. I don't know that.
Hang on a minute, there was something funny, right? Now, when Colleen Wing gets cut, right, how did it heal her again?
They put a bandage over her midriff.
Right, I suppose, because Danny couldn't... Did it not show you before that, you know, Was it? Hang on a minute. Wait a minute.
Yeah, he can heal.
Poison before, but I don't think he healed. Really. He just did the poison thing. I think he healed the actual wound.
Because she's supposed. Well, there's another thing again with the change power set as well. Because she's supposed to have sort of a slightly accelerated healing anyway, and be a bit, and a wee bit impervious to injury sort of thing. So it was kind of to see her getting cut. To me, when I watched it, I was like, "Oh, aye, right, okay." And I was wondering if they were going to touch on the fact that she could maybe heal a bit quicker, or whether Danny was going to heal her. So,
well, I mean, she was running about as if there was nothing wrong, mere hours after suffering that stomach wound. So, you know, chances are,
yeah, it could well be, and she doesn't know it yet. She doesn't. Yeah. She's because let's face it, though. I mean, some of them could be. Some characters could be capable of things that they just don't know yet. You know?
Yeah, and I'm also not sure what the Hand's plan was. I mean, I know they wanted to get down to that sealed area and excavate some dragon bones.
Yes,
but why? You know, you never find out what they're going to do with them.
Right, well, the dragon bone stuff, that's where they draw the substance for, and the substance is what allows them to be sort of reborn to prolong their life. So it's like the magic that does that. And ultimately, the ultimate goal of them is they want to go back home to Kunlun. Oh, but it's really the substance, you know, that substance that they used the Laster to bring back Elektra.
Yeah. Although, they apparently went back to Kunlun at the end of Iron Fist, though, because remember, he goes back to Kunlun and everyone's dead. So, how did that happen?
Kenya's actually.
There was a line that sort of said, you can't see it because they don't want you, or whatever it is. It's like you saw what you wanted to see. So he went back and he wanted to see gone as his motivation, so that's what he saw. Whereas it went back again, it might actually be there. I don't know, that's what I kind of took from it, but I don't know enough about the comics to know if how it works.
It's mystical stuff. It works exactly how
it works however the writer wants to. Okay, I used to love these things that say who would win between this character and this character. I'm like, well, whoever the bloody writer wants to win. To be perfectly honest with you,
yeah.
Bo, unless you're a Batman fan, with the proper preparation time, Batman could beat anybody. Didn't think so, big man.
Yeah.
What's anyway. Recently, it's like. Godzilla v King Kong is definitely going to end with a winner, and you're like, okay, great.
Although I would say between Batman and Daredevil, Batman probably would have the edge. Just, but unfortunately, that's just a shame. Although,
what about Batman v Godzilla?
Well, there you go, with the proper preparation time, you know.
Well, I'm sure Batman would have a giant bat Jaeger thing, you know, like in Pacific Rim.
Jaeger.
Godzilla repelling.
Used this before.
Why don't you use this all the time? How'd you hide this in the cave?
Have you got that Godzilla repellent spray? Nah, just got the shark stuff, mate. That's all.
Doesn't work on Godzilla. But yeah, obviously you get a lot of these 1v1 type things in this show, you know, and it doesn't really answer any question. I mean, you just know that Luke Cage can take a punch from Iron Fist, but Iron Fist can also hurt him, so Jessica doesn't really fight anybody.
No.
Also, the group shots, I mean, I know we're jumping around a lot here, but the group shots look where Daredevil's in his suit and nobody else was wearing a costume look really stupid. I mean, Daredevil's suit in these shows looks awful anyway. I think it's terrible.
I think it's because he's the only one who's still got, to an extent, a secret identity. All the other ones have pretty much been exposed. Everyone knows, yeah.
Although when he's cutting about in the police station after Elektra's captured Danny and stuff, and he's like, yeah, I'm just a lawyer. It's like, no one's buying that, mate. Nobody's going to buy that.
At this point, that's why I said he's still got sort of a secret identity. I don't know how that would work after this, with the fact that, you know, he broke out the police station. It's like, where did he go after that? Oh, you know, I hid in a car.
Actually, now you come to mention it, you know, Danny Rand wearing his original costume would probably be a bit stupid, but somebody did redesign him wearing a sort of tracksuit like outfit. So it's
they do homage his costume in this.
That'd be cool.
You know, where he's in the last episode when he has his shirt open and it looks vaguely like his old costume.
So, you know.
Well, they would darken up the colours and stuff, yeah, but I think... I think Daredevil's costume needs some improvement, though. It just looks bad. You know.
It might end up getting a new costume.
It might be because they were cutting about too much in the light during these episodes. A lot of it was done during daylight or in lit rooms, where normally in Daredevil it's always a dark room in an abandoned warehouse, where that suit looks slightly more awesome. However, with the lights on, it doesn't work so much. The horns are just ridiculous. But I don't know. Jessica Jones never really wore a costume. She did originally when she was Jewel.
Aye.
And she had her purple hair in that stupid costume, which they reference in the first Jessica Jones season.
That's right, and that was that. You know, something actually. It let me down. Not to see Patsy Walker. You know, because I wanted to see her have a wee bit more maybe a wee bit of fisticuffs with maybe one of the ninjas, because she obviously
anybody can fight a ninja apparently. Anyone.
Well, Patsy Walker becomes she was Hellcat, you know, and so they could have maybe have hinted that, you know, she's been continuing her training, and then even if she go just maybe like a good sucker punch for a ninja and the ninja wins, that would have been enough for me. Just something to indicate.
Yeah, I think that's going to be something they'll cover in Jessica Jones season 2. That's my thinking.
I want to see Foggy take down a ninja as well. If we're going for ninja fights. I think they should all have a little shot, you know, Foggy Karen against a ninja.
he sues the hand.
Yeah, that's it. The man who sues the hand won.
That's it. Injured at work. No one, no fee.
I was a ninja and I got injured at work. I got things direct.
I'm a ninja and a building fell on me, but I called Foggy Nelson and he got me.
And he got me £20.
Yeah.
Thank you, Foggy.
So you reckon inside a fossilised dragon bone is that substance they use to resurrect themselves?
That is what I took away for the show.
That's what I thought as well.
Seems reasonable.
There's something in the dragon bone, be it like the bone marrow or something that they can grind down and turn to the you can survive anything as long as we don't chop off your head powder.
Although, was that dragon supposed to be the Shaolin the Undying one that Danny fights, or...?
No, he's in a cave somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, considering the dragon was dead, it's not much a good name, is it? No. It's like I am no mortal Iron Fist. But you got to live forever, big man. Well, I'm not entirely sure about that. And it's like using that substance to bring them back. I mean, how did they find that out, really? Was that through a series of trial and error? Did they try to bring folk back with any other stuff beforehand? I mean, at what point did they discover it was a grounding stuff or the substance they took for the dragon bones? You know?
What happened was they were like sparring and then someone was killed and then fell in it and then they got up again. But
okay.
It was really weird how...
Didn't work. Huh?
Yeah. It's really weird how Alexandra was, they did the whole she's dying of cancer thing, and that seemed like it was going to be and it was her underlying motivation, but they didn't do anything with it throughout the show other than remind us that maybe bodies pack in occasionally and need to be substanced back into life.
Mm-hmm.
Although I think she should have used that on herself rather than Elektra. I don't know. It's not clear why she used it on Elektra.
Because we needed to bring back Elektra.
Yeah.
I think it was to give her a reason for being sloppy. You know, for being quick and for taking chances, because, you know, the whole thing that you've got up until now is the fact that this society, this organisation has managed to remain very, very hidden. You know, none of them have been revealed, and then suddenly all of them are out there in the open and all being caught with their pants down. So they kind of needed a reason for her to be rushing this through rather than thinking carefully like they've done in the past.
Well, that's right, because Madame Gull says to her, you know, just to take the time. Because she's like, no, rush it. So,
I did like all the references to, you know, stuff she'd picked up while living forever. You know, she talked about, I forget which composer it was, but she talked about in intimate detail why the composer composed that specific piece. And then she mentioned about food tasting better than anything she'd ever had in Constantinople, you know, and all that stuff. I think those were the major two references I picked up, but the idea that she was just ageless and has been been around a bit, experience and stuff. That was quite well done.
Yeah, the sort of vintage gramophone and things like
Yeah.
that you get in it. Yeah,
And the symbolism of the record that was stuck, as in that's like a metaphor for her being old and falling apart.
Aye, damaged goods.
Yeah. See, it's a shame she was killed off.
the other thing I thought was it was an interesting selection of accents for people that had ended in very, 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 very old Kunlun.
Yeah.
Aye, and that's another thing as well, because they come from... Now, fair enough, Danny, they talk about the people who never watched or never read Iron Fist. I mean, they never read Iron Fist in their entire life, or they never understood the character or anything along those lines, complained that Danny Rand was white when he should have been Chinese. Like, have you ever read Iron Fist? Really? Excuse me, Danny Rand is white. That's the whole point of the story. It's the whole point of the story. But then again, when you think to yourself, right, okay, but if she was born in Kunlun, how is she Caucasian? The rest of them are still fairly Oriental.
Yeah. That doesn't make any sense.
I mean, has she went through... Because she's that old, she's kind of... I mean, you could understand till when people maybe, like, through years of recreation, procreating and that and everything, that their DNA might change, like their ancestors probably look very different for them. But she's technically the same person that's been brought back to life umpteen times.
Yeah.
Unless, that's not her original body and her soul or her, consciousness can maybe go to a different... Well, I don't know.
Or Kunlun's just quite a diverse little community. I mean...
Maybe it is, aye.
Yeah, Bakutu, or whatever his name is, he's not Chinese or Japanese or whatever, so...
I'm more thinking if she's as old and been prattled out for as long as they say, and how the hell did she get over there in the first place? Rand fell out of a private jet.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
One of those little things that I was looking and going, that's a bit weird. But
it's one of those things, yeah. I don't know. But she was a better villain than the show let happen, because they just killed her off so unceremoniously, which was a shame.
Well, the good thing is that we'll get to see more of her in an upcoming Madame Gao spin-off.
I want this to happen, actually. Madame Gao. Yeah.
Madame Gao and Sigourney Weaver guest starring Steven Seagal.
I really want to see this now.
Miss Gao, yeah.
Missy, yeah, jeez. No, that's mental. So, the Hand, not the best villains. They were enough. They provided an endless stream of expendable henchmen for the Defenders to beat up for extended periods of time. Which is that enough? Maybe it is, maybe it's not. It's kind of enough for this, though. I think next time, if they do Defenders again, it has to be a more grounded street threat, I think. I mean, I would like to see them all teaming up against the Kingpin or something, it would be better, or something else. I mean, I don't know what other villains they might have in terms of, like, big boss guys, these boss battles that he keeps having, so could be anything. There is literally 80 years of comics or whatever to mine for villains, so they can find someone.
Stiltman. There you go.
I feel like he wouldn't last long against Luke Cage.
They never lasted long against Daredevil, so I suppose I would probably... No, Luke Cage would probably... Both.
They can't do the Leaper because he was already in Winter Soldier. It's a shame.
No.
Unless it's a new Leaper, someone who's copied the shtick.
How high can you jump, big man? You'll do.
Just leaping all over the place.
There you go.
Disgraced Olympic athlete. You'll do. Once you used to do long jump, now you'll do higher jump.
Aye. Shows up in Anorak. Mate, I said parkour, not Parker. Come on, get with the programme, eh?
Hilarious. I suppose just quickly, we've already kind of touched on the action scenes. Were there any specific highlights for any of you guys? For me, it was the corridor one. I thought the actual final one underground was really chaotic, and I couldn't make out what was going on half the time.
Mm-hmm. I think some were a bit too busy. Couldn't really work out what was going on. The fight in the sort of underground car park, I thought was pretty good. They gave everyone a little bit of something in it.
Yes.
And yeah, I think that one where they all sort of meet in the boardroom, I think was probably one of the better ones. It seemed more choreographed than the others.
Yes, aye. The boardroom certainly was quite a good fight sequence, I think, to begin with, especially from Danny Van's point of view, you know, when he was beginning, until he got pinned in.
Yeah. Yeah, but it did have some good action in there throughout. Various bits. I did like the Luke Cage versus Iron Fist first fight. I thought it was just the way that Danny just kept punching him and he wouldn't give up, and Luke was just standing there. It was good. I quite like Luke's fight style, where he just waits for the other guy to get fed up and then punches him.
I bet some good outtakes of that, of him going all out and the guy just laughing him.
Yeah.
You kind of wonder how much some of these heroes really came when they're taking on opponents and stuff because of the skill set. I mean, from Luke Cage's point of view, you know, if he's surrounded by guys, why doesn't he just pick up a brick and smash it against his own forehead? I mean, if I've seen that, I'd be like, oh, hang on, wait a minute, I've suddenly remembered I've got someone today. Or, you know, Iron Fist when he's in the boardroom, you know, just uses Iron Fist and punches a big table, boomf, right in the middle and smashes it. Or surely the ninjas would have went, hang on a minute, do I really need this job?
I think the ninjas are fairly committed to the cause, though. They won't be bothered. They'll try it.
Have a go.
One of the bits I kind of liked as well was when Danny and Luke both worked out that if he punches and they both punch each other with the Iron Fist, they get a nice big blast to knock everyone out. I thought that was neat.
Yeah.
Obviously, they find that out fighting in the first place, but when they sort of deploy that in the underground, I thought that was quite neat.
Yeah, it was cool. And a lot of the fight scenes that Elektra was involved in were pretty cool. I think Elodie Yung is really good at kind of choreography, if it is even her. I remember from G.I. Joe 2, or G.I. Joe begin with an R, Retribution, whatever, I don't know. The second G.I. Joe film, she's in that.
Oh, the crap here.
I like them. I like them both.
Oh, well, I was great until they edited it together and released it. It was a brilliant film until they released it.
The second one's the one with The Rock in it.
Aye.
Yeah, it's quick. I like them. They're good fun. But she's in that, and she does some pretty cool choreography stuff there. Again, I don't know if it's actually her, but still, Elektra was put to good use, even though she wasn't really Elektra as far as I was concerned. She wasn't Elektra in Daredevil either, so we're still waiting for the real Elektra.
Elektra's, she's pretty cool. I'd never really paid too much attention to her, sort of like, unless it's like Frank Miller's sort of Elektra. What do you call it? Was it Frank Miller? Aye. So there was. Always thought there's an artist called Bill Sight. Let me pronounce this properly. Siznik. Some of the paintings he done in that Elektra were beautiful. Just it's sort of. But it's so to see that. I think just the difference between the aesthetics. But I'd like to have seen maybe a film or a show of Elektra, but maybe try and give him that sort of aesthetic at some point during it,
It may be happen in the future if there's an appetite for it. I don't know. So yeah, in terms of what's next for the Netflix things, I mean, everything that we've seen here has been renewed for another season. So they've started production on, I think, Jessica Jones and Luke Cage already, maybe. Certainly Jessica Jones, I've seen photos. And Iron Fist is getting a second season with a new showrunner. And Daredevil obviously getting another season. So that kind of disappoints me in a sense, because I would actually prefer to see a Heroes for Hire series than I would a solo Luke Cage and Iron Fist series at this point. Although Heroes for Hire, Danny Rand's a billionaire. He would just do it for kicks, I suppose, just for the hell of it. You know, he doesn't need the money.
Yeah, I don't know if... See, the thing is, like, Iron Fist, I really didn't enjoy that much. So I'm not particularly looking forward to seeing that again. And I don't know. It'll all depend. I always start these things out, you know, I'll watch a few episodes and I'll see what I think, and then end up trudging through it and then forgiving myself at the end. So I'll see what happens with these ones. Yeah, I'd like to see some of them, and hopefully, you know, if all the things that we've been hearing about the Punisher are true, then it might sort of get up a little bit.
Yeah, the Punisher's next, isn't it? So
yeah, they've got Daredevil back in a decent place for this. On Defenders, he seems in a better place than he was in Season 2, so maybe Season 3 will be more along the lines of Season 1. We can hope.
You see, Fisk's still in the jail, isn't he?
Yes.
Right, now, Punisher, this is my theory, and it might not come true, but I'm just going to put this out here at the moment until I know better. Right, Daredevil... Nah, forget about it. No, I'm just trying to remember when we seen him. It was we've seen the Punisher. He was in the jail when Fisk was there, so the Punisher show's coming up. So perhaps at some point the Punisher could visit Fisk in the jail, and we could maybe see Bullseye. So I've been racking my brain, you know, to think, because right, let me think. Because we've got Turk, and that would tie in, you know, because I think it was the Daredevil, the Punisher story, where he went to see balls. No, but I think I'm kind of hoping that we'd maybe see Bullseye. It'd been quite nice if he showed up somehow in the Netflix shows.
Well, Bullseye's got to turn up next, doesn't he? I mean, they've managed to get through 2 seasons without him, which is remarkable. But I think he's got to be next, surely.
Aye, it'd be good if he was like, if for some reason he's shows up or he's in the prison or something like that.
I'd like to see Arcade. Let's do Arcade. Have Daredevil running through a giant pinball machine.
Is Arcade, is he not tied in with X-Men?
I think he was a Spider-Man villain at first.
Maybe, give me a second.
Chris, do you know who Arcade is?
I have no idea.
He's pretty awesome. He makes like all these themed death traps, like pinball machines and all that stuff. He's a lot like Mysterio in some ways.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, which means we won't get it. Oh. His first appearance was Marvel Team Up Volume 1, Issue 65, which probably would be a Spider-Man story. Mm-hmm. It was Spider-Man and Captain Britain.
Right, aye, yes. So I could easily show up and that could...
I don't think he will, though. I mean, because that would be so ridiculous. I'd love it, but it would be so ridiculous. I don't know. There's plenty of Daredevil villains that we could see kicking about. I think the Punisher's going to have Jigsaw in it, though. They've suggested that. That's been suggested. You know, which is one of the only villains he has that comes back.
Because he just tends to kill the rest.
Yeah, pretty much. Apart from this guy. This one guy. You can't seem to kill him. Yeah. I'm kind of looking for...
What did you call the Punisher villain? The woman, the sort of gang boss, the one that had the... Oh, right, she... Her legs and the arms cut off. But it turned out to be... It wasn't really her. It was clones. No clones, but people that looked like... It was weird. They actually started to date to people to make them think that this gang boss was still kicking about.
Bushwhacker?
No. It's a female sort of gang boss that's prevalent in the Punisher stuff. Oh, Christ, man! I've only ever really read like Punisher Warzone, and sort of some of the recent Becky Cloonan Punisher stuff, and also when they've released some reprints of the Punisher, and they reprinted it as like sort of UK comics back when I was a lot younger. And then when Punisher showed up and a lot of other comics, and Punisher Warzone, and some of the recent Becky Clone stuff, and that's really, in terms of the books, that only the sort of Punisher stuff that I've read. So some of the character names on this sort is prevalent in my head, but
yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic about Punisher. I mean, I think it might be a bit intense for one season, 13 episodes of him, but at the same time, I'm kind of interested to see what they do with it. As I said, I'd rather see a Heroes for Hire series than a than a Luke Cage and Iron Fist solo series. Jessica Jones, I'll be interested to see what they do now that the shadow of Kilgrave is gone, because I think the last series was obsessed with that in a way, so I'd like to see her move forward and maybe become a bit more, I'm not talking about completely upbeat, but a little more upbeat.
It seemed to have been announced to come back for the new Jessica Jones.
I think he's going to be like...
Set picture, wouldn't they? But you don't know if it's flashbacks or something else.
I think it's going to be he's haunting her, as in she'll be imagining him or whatever.
A Force ghost.
Something like that, yeah. Why not? But Luke Cage, the other season will be whatever. So it looks like this Netflix stuff is hanging around for the foreseeable future, which is fine. That means there's always something to think about. Always something.
Now, that's interesting, because Disney's going to be having its own sort of streaming service for the Marvel stuff, and apparently Marvel pulled out of Netflix, so I don't know how that's going to affect any licenses or any shows. I don't understand it, because I didn't really bother paying too much attention to it.
It's staged, isn't it, until the contracts are up, and then it's all going to move back to Disney.
As far as I'm aware, these shows are produced by Netflix, as in they produce them. So Marvel have only kind of licensed them out to Netflix. I could be wrong here.
No, that's right. They'll license it. The characters will still stay with,
But these shows essentially belong to Netflix, who make them. So at the very least,
what might cause an issue for later down the line is them getting the rights to anything else. Because Martin just go, nah, you're not going to have the rights to that. We're going to do it on the Disney thing.
Yeah, but it's a big problem with this whole streaming nonsense. It's coming like the TV nonsense, isn't it? Where you have to pay thousands of pounds to different people so you can see everything. So people are just going to get turned away from streaming services because there's too many of them.
Well, you only want to watch one thing on each streaming service, however you haven't pay a tenner a month to all of them in order to watch TV. So it's basically going back to the problems with Sky packages or subscription services. You're paying your £25. It's just you're paying £5 a piece to each of them rather than paying £25 to one person.
What you do is you just take a week off your work, use up the month's free trial, watch the whole lot, and just go, nah, you're alright, big one, just keep it.
Or, go visit your friend who, has a subscription to Amazon Prime or whatever, and then... Yeah. Hi, I haven't seen you in a while. Is it okay if I just watch some TV for the next 14, 15 hours? Thanks.
Aye, it reminds me of Chill today. Right, big man, you coming out? No? Oh, okay. Will we just come in and play your computer?
Yeah. Good times. So I think we've pretty much covered as much of the Defenders as we can. It's quite good, 8 episodes, quite lean, I wish the other shows were this short, actually, but never mind. So does anyone have any final remarks on the Defenders as a show before we wrap up?
No,
I think that's it. I'm sure I'll think it's an after we've stopped recording, but yeah, I think that's covered it.
Cool. James, any final thoughts?
No, nothing. I think I've probably covered what I wanted to say.
You've certainly caused a headache for me in the show notes with all your references that I now need to Google and put in the show notes.
You can't probably didn't take, like I said, heavy alcohol at the weekend, so there's probably my new ones are probably firing off at tangents, and it might not be the best.
Sorry, for listeners at home, Chris has just changed his name on our group chat thing as Give Gow a spin-off. That's
I could just see an online petition coming on here now. You know, like change 33 or these things that are coming up on Facebook is like, you know, support such and such, you know what I mean? Support Chris Mackwell, give Gower spin-off. Well, I need another 33,000 votes to what goes in front of Parliament.
Chris, I think you should go on Kickstarter and try and kickstart a Madame Gao fan film, and then get sued by Marvel.
Well, yeah, I can give it a go. I'd get famous at least, you know. I'll make sure I plug the podcast when I'm in court.
Yeah, you'll raise awareness.
Yeah.
Can make them listen to excerpts and evidence.
Your court trial will be filmed like some of these, like the O.J. Simpson trial or something like that. So just make sure you've got your podcast T-shirt on.
Who would you prefer representing you though, Matt Murdock or Foggy? I think I'd rather have Foggy.
I think Foggy would technically get it done better. I think Matt would be better at doing the speeches, so I'll go for Matt Murdock.
Fair enough.
Closing rocks would be more epic with him.
So yeah, there's a question to leave on. James, who would you rather have representing you in a court of law?
I have absolutely no idea. That's a good point. No, I have no idea. Foggy. Just because I want to be opposite. You said kettle and I'll... anyway, there you go. You say black, I'll say white. There you go.
Craig wants Karen.
Yeah, but that's for another reason.
She could report on it. She could report on it. You know what I mean?
Well,
she could tell everybody how it's going on, you know.
Because as Daredevil season 2... Yeah, as Daredevil season 2 tells us, all you need to do to become a reporter is stumble into a news office and start working for them, whether they want you to or not. That's what we learned from Daredevil season 2.
I'll tell you what, I'll represent myself because it doesn't matter, because my boss is a kingpin, right? He's just bought the jury. He's bought the jury and he's told the judge that if they didn't let me off, he's going to release some sensitive files about him. You know, concerning a plastic bag and a satsuma.
I think I'll have Madame Gao represent me.
That's a good enough one. That could be the spin-off.
Madame Gao, defence attorney.
I'll have Jessica. Hey, there you go. I'll have She-Hulk. Jessica Waters. Aye, because she's a fantastic lawyer. So
Jennifer Waters.
That's what I said, did I know?
You said Jessica.
Oh, I meant Jessica. See, I'm getting Jessica Drew and bloody thing about, see that? I need to go. It's only a hobby. There you go. Sorry, there you go. Sorry, Spider-Woman could be out there doing something. I don't know.
She could have a Netflix show. I don't think she'd be too expensive.
There you go. Can you climb up a wall? Aye.
Yeah.
There's a Venom Blast type thing. Well, then again, what version of Spider-Woman? I'd be Jessica Drew.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They could even do she has a kid and she's a parent thing. They could do that. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. I hope Marvel are listening and want to, and want to commission me for ideas. I'm available.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we should wrap up there. So, James, thanks for guesting, crossing the boundaries of universes to guest on the podcast and complete the crossover that's been 8 months in the making.
Absolutely no problem at all whatsoever. Yeah. I've got no idea why there was such a time delay. You know, it's all your fault, no mine. I'm not taking any responsibility for that.
It's always my fault.
I remember the Kingpin's my boss.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with a henchman of Wilson Fisk. It's just not going to happen. Yeah. And Chris, as always, pleasure to talk comic book nerdery with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Here endeth the podcast. Thanks to YouTuber nstens1117 for the supplied music. If you enjoyed what you heard, then don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, or any major podcasting app. Tell your friends too. Don't forget to join us on the next Kneel Before Pod.